Hey everybody, Keith Dotson here, and in this video, one of my series of videos about the history of the ghost town at Union Level, Virginia, we'll be looking at some fascinating old documents that should help shed further light onto the lives of the people we've learned about in my previous Union Level videos. In case you haven't seen the previous videos, I encourage you to go watch those as well, because local resident Jimmy Thompson provided a lot of history in recounting his memories of the town as it was when it still thrived. He was raised in Union Level and knew many of the people who operated these abandoned stores, and now he actually owns some of them himself. Union Level was a railroad town in the heart of Virginia's tobacco region. These stores once hummed with activity. Jimmy said he remembered when these streets would be so crowded with mule-drawn wagons and tobacco sleighs that there was no place to park. Now it's what you see here, a vacant and collapsing ghost of its former self. As a photographer, I love shooting abandoned buildings, but the experience is much more rewarding when I can learn something about the people who lived or worked in the buildings. With these Union Level videos, my dream of learning about these kind of places has come true to an extent I never imagined, with Jimmy providing access to such a wealth of history and local color. So I received this package of goodies in the mail, and I was very excited to see what I had received. Look at this, y'all. It's like a book with a homemade cover. You can tell it sat in an abandoned building for a long time. It's pretty grimy. A historian would call these primary sources, and I'm very interested to see what we can glean from these. And we have some old ledger books. Oh wow, 1931 to 1932. Very cool. Needless to say, I was granted access to these documents. I didn't take them from the buildings, and in fact, I didn't even go inside the buildings, because that would be both illegal and highly dangerous. The structures in Union Level are highly compromised, and in fact, one of the reasons I went back to Union Level to make this recent set of videos is that Jimmy told me that he was trying to decide the fate of the buildings that he owns, and hinted they may not be around much longer. These kinds of documents make sense because these came from merchants. Bookkeeping would have been very important to them. Okay, what do we have here? Looks like a bank statement from the old Bank of Union Level. That was discussed in a few of the videos, and it went into receivership during the Great Depression and never served as a bank again after the 1930s, although it did hold other businesses in the space, and Jimmy told me that his mother took him into the building for safety during Hurricane Hazel in 1954. And we have this old calendar from 1954. Okay, let's look at each of these documents in detail and see what we can learn, starting with the calendar. This, of course, was a giveaway promotional calendar from 1954 for the AF Drumright store. And just for reference, it's this brick building, the one with the two open windows up top. It started out as Simmons and Drumright store, and later Mr. Drumright took over. I've noticed in this era, men went by their initials, the AF Drumright store. A lot of the merchants did the same. The pages are illustrated with recipes, but I'll bet this calendar was targeted at the housewives. This is back in the era when moms stayed home and raised the children and did the cooking. Careers for women were not only rare, they were frowned upon. He-Man dinner. Weatherbird shoes. That brand was established in 1901 by the Peter Shoe Company of St. Louis. I think they made shoes for children, but based on their ads, they were well made with Goodyear welt stitching and real craftsmanship. Next, we'll look at this old 1920 bank check from the Bank of Union Level for $2.80, made out to a man named T.H. Evans. But the interest for me is that it was signed by merchant J.A. Thompson. There's his signature. Interestingly, signed in pencil. That was John Ashby Thompson, and he was associated with the bank, but also he was the proprietor of this store, the white wooden one with the gable roof. He was also Jimmy's Uncle Ashby. It's so evocative seeing these signatures from 100 plus years ago. Next, we have another bank document related to J.A. Thompson. This time, it's a bank statement dated 1915, if you can believe that. It says, Mr. J.A. Thompson, Union Level, Virginia, handwritten with a fountain pen. Blank on the back, but look, you can see the impression of the typesetting. It was printed on a letterpress. A more modern check for J.A. Thompson, this one from 1966, and this is from his general merchandise store. It says Country Produce Bought and Sold. And this is drafted from a bank in South Hill. Of course, the Bank of Union Level had been gone for 30 years, and South Hill is a nearby, bigger town just a few miles away. There are a ton of stamps and markings on this thing. Here's another document from J. Thompson's General Merchandise Store, dated 1933. This appears to be an account balance sheet for a man named Charlie M. Good. From what I can tell after looking through all the ledger books is that the store is sold on credit and people would come in and pay balances. That may be what we're looking at here. This was in the heart of the Great Depression. Just a list of ordinary items needed for living, suitcases, suits, baking powder, sugar, toothpicks, oil and wicks for oil lamps. In this ledger book, the accounts are tracked on a page with other accounts and later marked paid. What we're looking at here are the names of the local residents and the things they needed to sustain a life here in the Depression era. J. Thompson tracked his own purchases too: bread, a can of tomatoes, a can of beef steak, and 5 pounds of sugar. In flipping through the pages, I found things left inside. Someone tucked this tobacco receipt into the book nearly 90 years ago, and here it remains. Here's another, and this one's for May Whitmore, written on post office paper that sternly warns there's a penalty for private use. And here's something for C.P. Jones, the owner of the drugstore next door, for 10 pounds of beans. This is Mr. C.P. Jones, seen in a photo published in the book Around South Hill. I'll put an Amazon link in the description. That's his drugstore, built in 1900 after an older one burned down. Mr. Jones died in 1966, but he's immortalized by his name on that storefront, at least for as long as it still stands. And here's L.W. Lett, who owned a store across the street that still stands as well. Now our final document, this massive account book with a homemade cover built from a carton or something. And we start out with the account of Josh B. Barnes of nearby Baskerville, Virginia, June 1926. Look how this piece of paper stained these pages. For these merchants, everything was scratch paper for making calculations. Looks like there's nothing inside. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this little peek into the history of a small town in America 90 to 100 years ago. Thanks for watching. Be sure to visit my website at keithdotson.com.